Hey everybody, this is Matt with Option Omega. Today we're going to go back to the future. We have a very active Discord, and part of what Troy does on our Discord, and I'll put a link invitation below, is he does cigar lounges where he looks at popular backtests, talks about trading, talks about psychology, all different sorts of things. And last year we did a top 3 for backtest of the year. And the third place medal went to this test. And this is the test that Troy had on that cigar lounge, which I will put a link in the description below. And it is an overnight backtest. So it is a double calendar on Wednesdays, and you are doing 15 delta. So in last year's environment, 15 delta overnight actually did really well. It won 90% of the time. There were a ton of people in the Option Omega community who were taking this trade from the back test and doing all sorts of things. Let's look at it year to date. So we're just going to go straight up year to date. And as you can see, not that great. It has a win rate, still positive, but I don't even know if I'd call this positive expectancy. It's pretty ugly. And this was a 25% portfolio allocation, so to only end up a little bit ahead is pretty risky. The reason I was thinking about this backtest is because I was realizing the other day how much movement we had on Thursdays. And I was wondering, is there anything I could do to our old chestnut, maybe polish this thing off and take a look at it and see if there's, in this environment, a few tweaks we could make, maybe changing deltas, changing the times. I don't even know. So we're going to go on an exploration and try to explore ways to revive our old overnight 1-2 Wednesday trade. So as we go on this journey, this exploration to revive our backtest, let's take a look at what we're working with. We can go into the trade log and kind of see what happens at the various expirations and times. We don't hit our profit target very often. We're usually exiting in a times exit, and the trade is it's usually barely up or down barely a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at making it go longer. The other thing I noticed is we had a really bad loss here. And if I look at this one, it looks like the tent sagged. So we opened and didn't have much movement. This is back the second week in January. So that was a totally different VIX environment than July 2023. And double calendars, quick double calendar lesson. There's 2 ways a double calendar usually does well, or 2 conditions that you're looking for. Is you want VIX to be sticky. You don't want it to dump on you. And you would prefer movement to one or the other pole. So we're 15 delta even on the put and call. So those are 2 things I'm going to keep in mind. We had a huge loser, but then also there's not much movement. So the first thing I'm going to do is let's just keep this trade as is, but instead of exiting in the morning, let's hold it. So let's hold it till lunchtime and see if that does anything to make this test better. If it brings a little life back into the test. Okay, interesting. So it made this trade a lot worse. So I don't like to pick out certain trades, but in this case, as a function of randomness, you can see by looking at this one that we had a huge drawdown there. It was a big loser. And that's a function of randomness. If we test from after that date, like say if we start at the beginning of February and cut that loser out, now that's curve fitting, and I don't advocate curve fitting. So let's just keep that in our pocket and come back to it. So let's try. It did get better. Let's try holding it longer in the day. So we'll hold it let's hold it to the beginning of power hour. So we'll hold it till 3 o'clock. Okay. Kind of worse again. So we have another big loser here, and this was in the middle of April. So if we go and look at this one, we can try to find out exactly what happened. So this one's interesting. So we opened it, and then it got to the call strike and got past it. So let's do this. Let's tweak on this, and let's do this for both. What we're going to do is we're going to exit if either the put or the call side the short side gets touched. Okay, so we're making a little progress. We look at the chart. this is getting better. We've still got this huge loser that again is kind of skewing things, but I think we're making a little progress. Let's look at the trade log again. Oh man. So here's what I'm noticing. We're hitting the profit target a lot. So let's bump up the profit target. Let's see what happens if we double the profit target. Okay, we're getting better, and you know what? We're still hitting the profit target a lot. Let's bump it up a little bit more. Let's try to take it up to 50. Okay, MAR went down a little bit. We'll go halfway. Again, there's many ways to iterate on this. Okay, that's pretty good. I mean, your CAGR's pretty good. Your MAR's getting better. You still have this one test at the beginning. So I'm going to tell you a rule of thumb I have, and then I'm going to break the rule of thumb. So the rule of thumb with calendars is I don't particularly like doing stop losses on them. It's not a lot of times calendars are crazy and they have a lot of movement early on, especially on medium and long-term calendars where you would get stopped out and you don't want to. So here's the interesting thing about this. What I did just now is I turned on the short-long ratios, and short-longs can be a very good way of measuring the change in the relationship between your shorts and longs in a calendar. This doesn't seem to be the case. So my rule of thumb is I generally don't like stop losses, but I'm looking at this backtest going, okay, this was a 20% winner and there was no ratio at the end. The short-long ratio at the end of this on a 20% winner was next to nothing. And if I go down through that, we're below 0.3 on this, we're below 0.3 on this, we're below 0.3 on this. Here's another one. This was a nice winner. We're below 0.3 on. This was not a great winner, but that's probably 12, 15%. And at 0.04. So I don't think the short-long ratio is going to be super helpful on this test because it looks like what you're doing is you're actually, if you look at these, what you're doing is you're getting movement to the legs, which is what you want. And it's functioning like this one. We hit the profit target. We're only 12 points away from 13 points away from one of the 10s, and it was only a 0.2. So here's what I'm going to do. Let's keep the profit target at 40%. And we're going to put a stop loss on. Okay, we are going to put a stop loss on here of 40% just to keep it equal to the profit target. Okay, so there's no shenanigans. And what happens when we run it at 40%? I'm thinking it's going to clip that loser a little bit. Yeah, it did. Okay, there you go. Now let's review my rule. I don't generally like stop losses on double calendars. A 40% stop loss is a pretty sizable stop loss. So usually the profit target on double calendars for me a lot of times isn't 40%. So I would be okay with a 40% profit target and a 40% stop loss because we understand the context of why we're doing it. Again, the short long ratio is what I normally would use, but if you look at a lot of these decent winners, your short long ratio is just non-existent. So, okay, this is starting to be a pretty decent back test now. Let's see what else we should do. I've got some of the Punisher on already. So we're capping profits and we're requiring 2 price targets. And just to review, the capping profits means that we're going to hard cap the profit at 40% unless it's an opening profit. And the required 2 price targets means we are going to make sure the tester hits the profit condition twice. You might put on a little slippage. We'll do a little bit here. We'll do 5 cents, 5 cents. And just to beat it up a little bit, we'll put on some exit slippage. And let's see. Today's a Wednesday. It hasn't opened the trade, but just for the sake of completeness, we'll turn that bad boy on. So this is a much better looking curve. And what I'm noticing is your winners you're getting some pretty good winners in there. Let's see what would happen if we hold it even later through power hour. Because if I remember correctly, Thursdays had some pretty wild power hours. There it is. There it is. So what we just did was we gave it more time to run. And sure enough, if you check this out, like here's an example. This last week, if you would have put this on, the call strike was 4,400. We almost got there at the power hour. At 351, we closed the trade at the profit target. You're hitting the profit target a lot more. So you're going to have some drawdowns in this. Now the chart might not reflect it. Again, this is a moment in time. I just randomly picked a year to date. Okay. So this is a moment in time. So if you're trading this kind of thing, you will have some stop losses. And as always, backtesting is backward looking. We have no idea what the future is going to be. But we've traded this thing 25 times over 6 months. Okay, so something else. I think we're getting pretty close to something here that is going to be usable for more backtesting. And what we're going to do is we're going to play around with the times a little bit. So we've got the entry time at 3:55. So this is a good way of checking to make sure that you're not curve fitting. So if we exit 15 minutes early, it still has a pretty good result. Now, you're not going to hit, like this last one, you didn't hit the profit target because we ground up another, I don't know, I think it was 6 points above that and hit the profit target in the last one. But again, as a backtester is an idea generator, it's a refiner. So you could hold this. The idea is with this backtest, testing it and holding it into power hour. You know, if you want to pick just random numbers, not to curve fit, but just to double check your idea, do you still have a comparable MAR? You sure do. It's pretty close. So this will give you hopefully some inspiration. Hopefully you'll be inspired. There's a lot more you could do with this backtest. You could play around with lowering the deltas even more and increasing the profit target. You could play around with changing the entry time, perhaps. But I think in general, I think we've succeeded in bringing this back from the dead, and hopefully people start thinking about it again. One thing I'm going to do real quick is I would never full port in real life any sort of trade, obviously. But for backtesting, it can be useful to judge how resilient a backtest may be. So in this case, when we look at it, it can help you feel, okay, so at a full port, you would have hit that max drawdown. This would have been brutal, right? But it still can help you feel it. If you want to, what a lot of people do for a more real life test, let's say if you had just done 10 contracts, we'll use max contracts as a limiter. So if you had just done this with 10 contracts each week, so you're putting on anywhere from, you know, this is still a sizable trade here. It's 20 grand of notional. Now towards the end here, it's getting a lot smaller. So you have 6 grand, 7, 8, 9, 10 grand. So it's still a sizable trade, but most people would be happy on a pretty dialed in real life type back test with a 28 MAR over 6 months for something that only had a 3% drawdown. So again, this is an idea generator. Hopefully it will inspire you. If you have some versions of a revived 1-2 that you want to post, please feel free to jump on our Discord. And the Discord is free. The discussion is really active in the subscriber channels, which you have to be verified for. It's super easy. We have subscriptions, annual and monthly. Please like and subscribe this video. Helps us make more content. And have a great day. Thanks for watching.